Okay, so good morning, everybody, and welcome to the next of our In Conversation With series, where we are delighted to welcome today the wonderful Lesley Young, who is Executive Business Support Manager for the East Midlands Chamber of Commerce. Lesley, it is absolutely wonderful to welcome you. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you, Daniel, and thank you very much for inviting me to do this In Conversation piece. It's really exciting. But I'm a little bit like you. I'm recovering from COVID, and it seems to have lingered a little bit. So yeah, this a little bit croaky, but we're fine.
Absolutely. Well, we're on the road to recovery, which is great. So no, it's wonderful to welcome you this morning, Lesley. Thank you. So we always like to kick off these interviews just with a little bit about you, that people people may know you and have met you, but some people might have only met you virtually or seen you at one of a seminar or a conference, etc. And sometimes they might not know a little bit personal things about you, and we just love to be able to share those. So can you tell us three things that you think you'd like to be or happy to share with our audience today?
Yeah, no problem. And they're not really work related,
That's
I
great.
suppose. But
That's great.
the things I thought about was that I'm half Irish. I was born in Northern Ireland in a little village called Dungiven in between Londonderry and Belfast. My mum is Irish, and she came over to London when she was just 19. It was unheard of in those days, in the 1960s. And she met my dad, who was doing his national service. They got married and lived in Leicester. But mum didn't like the maternity hospitals in Leicester when she was expecting me. So she flew home to Northern Ireland. So that's why I was born in Northern Ireland, came back to Leicester when I was just 2 weeks old. So yeah, I'm
Oh,
half
wow.
Irish.
That's fantastic. Do you go back to Northern Ireland? Do you go back to Northern
Um,
Ireland?
We did when my grandparents still lived there. We used to go back every summer to go and see them. And of course, my dad driving an English registration car and being 6'4" and quite big at that time, there were all the roadblocks because there were all the troubles in Northern Ireland, and we always used to get stopped, quite amicably, English registration and things like that. So but yeah, we used to do it quite a lot, and then my grandparents died and we didn't really do it very much. But my husband Dave and I went over, must be about 5 or 6 years ago now, to do some fundraising for the RNLI, which is something else that we do. And there was another story which I'll regale people with later on. But we went back and it was really good. So we have been back a couple of times. Last year, which was wonderful. It's a great place to go. If you've never been to Northern Ireland, particularly around the Antrim coast, you've got to try it. So
Amazing. A little bit of holiday advice there from Lesley as well. Thank you so much.
My second fact is I love dogs, and I have dogs, and I love doing all sorts of different dog sports, in particular doing agility. I travel with the agility. We've got friends all over the UK, and I've qualified for a number of finals, including a Kennel Club International Agility competition, which took me to Discover Dogs at Excel a few years ago, which was really good. And I'm also a dubber. What's a dubber?
Oh, it sounds like some sort of DJ term, Lesley.
It's nothing to do with that. I'm a VW enthusiast. So when people say VW, they bring the dub bit up. So it's a dubber. So yeah, my husband and I are members of a local VW enthusiast group called Leicester VWs. And we do festivals like Camper Jam, which is where we were last weekend, and Camper Calling, and we do our own meets and things as well. So yeah, anything with the VW badge on, we like.
Amazing. And this is exactly why we ask these questions at the beginning, because it's just amazing to be able to relate with the people that we're interviewing today. So for example, Lesley, my dad is an absolutely massive camper enthusiast. He's off traveling Europe at the moment in the back of his pickup truck, he's got a little attachment to it where he lives in with his dog Ali. I'm a massive dog lover as well. So I think is Crufts something that's on your calendar? Do you like to go to that?
Crufts, I'd love to be on my calendar, but I go for the shopping, not for the competing. Yeah. I train with some really fantastic people. I'm very lucky to be in a group where that we do agility with, but I don't think I'll ever make it to Crufts. All my dogs have always been rescue dogs, so you never quite know what you're going to get, so it takes that extra time to do the training and things. I think if you want to get to Crufts, you need to do your research on your breeders and your lines and things, and follow it that way. And it has been done, which is great, but yeah, I prefer that bit. I prefer just to go and watch and not necessarily participate.
Yeah, we're a rescue dog family as well. We love our rescue dogs. So we'll have to get them to meet each other one day, Lesley. It'll be brilliant.
Yeah,
So
perhaps we could do a networking dog walking event.
there we go. Absolutely. So thank you again so much for sharing with us. I really appreciate it. And I think, what I love about these interviews, it's a great opportunity to find out a little bit more about your career journey and where you started out and how you got to where you are today. We have so many different levels of PAs or executive assistants or business support professionals that are maybe starting out their career and thinking, oh, how can I get to where Lesley is today? So or more experienced EAs that know you and may not have known how you started out. So it's just a great way for us to find out from you. So how is it that you got into being a business support professional?
I suppose I left school and I went to secretarial college, which is what you did then. There doesn't seem to be that now, kind of thing. But I did a year at secretarial college. Came out of secretarial college in 1983, and that sounds like an absolute age ago now, doesn't it? But my first job was at Loughborough University, and I worked for a chemistry professor. And I used a golf ball typewriter. So there was me sort of like typing on a golf ball typewriter, doing all the different chemical formula, but you had to click it up and click it down, change the golf ball over and everything. And it just seems so alien to think about that nowadays, especially for the younger EAs and PAs in our profession. They're thinking, what's a golf ball typewriter? Google it.
Yeah.
Don't Google it. It was fun, I worked in my early 20s. Moved down to London. So I worked for surveyors just behind Trafalgar Square, which was brilliant. I then went on to work for Price Waterhouse at London Bridge. So as you go over London Bridge, there was an iconic building, which is like a pink granite. It looks like an upside down mug. And I used to work in that building. So it was always, and I love it. Whenever I go down to London now, I go around some of the old haunts, and just because I know it my way around it. I moved back to Leicester in my mid-20s, and I had various jobs. I got married and I had my daughter. And I thought, that would be my job and my career complete. I wanted to go back to work, obviously, because I was the major breadwinner in our family. But 18 months into having my daughter, I was getting bored. So I did another career change, and I've always wanted to progress, I suppose. I suppose my most inspiring role has been working for the National Lottery Charities Board, as it was then. I think it's Community Funds, or it has changed its name even since then. But I was England committee clerk, so not necessarily an EA or a PA. I worked alongside the chief executive's PA for that, but I coordinated all the work of the various England committees, and the head office was in Leicester. But it did include travelling down to London quite a bit. And the conversations you used to have with people on the train, who do you work for, and that kind of thing is. And as soon as they hear the National Lottery Charities Board, they're always saying, "Oh, what are you doing with my money?" And it's we should be going to good causes, and it's to try and explain to it what we were doing and how we were giving the money out was really interesting conversations.
What's really interesting though there, Lesley, is that people had a conversation with you on the train, which is
yeah.
When does that even happen nowadays? It's just mad, isn't it? People finding out about each other and what they're doing. And, the train, you can be sitting opposite somebody for like 2 or 3 hours, can't you, sometimes? But you would never get asked that now, pretty much. It's very rare.
And it is very different, isn't it? So, and I think that's what's the difference is, in what we're dealing with nowadays, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So, I think, you have highs in your career and you have lows in your career, I suppose, but it builds us into what we are today. So I've had really inspiring roles like that one, but I've also had disappointing roles where you think that you work for an organisation that are, are professionals in what they do, but when you personally go through a difficult time, which I did with this one particular organisation, and they don't support you in the way that they should, that was really disappointing. And I think you've got, for me, it was a realization that I'm not right here. This isn't the right place for me, and I have to move away. So,
How long,
like anybody, there's highs and lows.
how long did, if you don't mind me asking, how long did it take you to, how long were you there for? How long were you in that role for?
I was in that role for a good 2 or 3 years, actually. And again, I used to travel. It was the professional organisation for psychologists. And I used to travel to London. I used to travel around, to do committee meetings in Liverpool and all of the different places. But it was at a time that I had my young daughter, and my dad was quite ill, and we lost him quite quickly, actually, and it affected me quite a bit. I realise now, I didn't at the time. I wanted to be there for my mum and dad, and I wanted to be particularly there for my mum to support her through losing my dad and making all the arrangements and everything. And for working for an organisation that you think should know and understand what these people are going through when they have to deal with work and family and bereavement, I now realise I just didn't get the support. There was nothing there at all, and that was so disappointing. And it's still a learning point for me. I think that actually that meant we weren't compatible anymore. So I went through a process, and we ended up leaving and parting ways. So.
Oh, bless you, Lesley. No, I know, and I think we've all, obviously that's really tragic circumstances, and I'm so sorry, but I think we've all been in that. There's been one job or one particular
Yeah,
role that unfortunately stays with you, but like you said, we learn so much from it.
you
I
have
I
to.
would
Yeah,
I would imagine now you would be able to spot those red flags from a mile away
yeah,
now,
yeah.
having unfortunately been through that, but you become more, I guess it's about emotional intelligence, it's about awareness for yourself, isn't it? It's about
It is.
understanding your self-worth and understanding about your mental health and wellness, etc. And now we have a lot more tools to be able to support us, and you think that businesses are held more
Exactly.
to be
Yeah.
more
Well-being
accountable.
is so much out on the agenda nowadays, and you're encouraged to talk about it and to share it, and there's a lot of support out there. But 20 odd years ago, it wasn't,
Yeah.
and it didn't happen, kind of thing, which is a real shame, because I think a lot of people, had to move on and do different things, when if they'd had the right support, you could have gone on to do great things. I did enjoy that job, I really did, but it was just the support around me that I just thought, no, I can't do this anymore.
How
So
did you find, because you mentioned some other organisations there, so for example like the National Lottery Community Fund or PwC, how did you get on in those larger organisations, perhaps where there might be like multiple EAs and PAs working together at the time? Was there a sense of community then, or were you all very much working in silos, or how did it work at some of those organisations at the
I,
time?
I don't think I was aware really of how you were working in silos and things. We worked for different departments within places like Price Waterhouse, Coopers, and you had your own small teams and things. I always wanted, I was always one for seeing things that could be changed, or getting involved with projects and things. So I was always part of a team, whether it was with other EAs and secretaries or anything, or whether it was part of working with some of the professional staff to make something change and things. So, but I wasn't really aware of it at that point, as far as what we now call it as networking.
Yeah.
And so like in improving yourself through that, I just did it because it felt natural to me, I suppose.
So when did the opportunity? So when you went through the difficult time, what was your next stage after that? Was that when the East Midlands Chamber came to light?
Um, yes, in a way. I at that point you went to employment agencies, and I got an interview at Leicestershire Chamber of Commerce, and I thought, you know what, that will do. I know what I'm doing. You know, it's I can travel on the train. I can get there easily. I don't have to think too much about it. The lady that interviewed me, I'd be working with, because there were two organisations. So she worked for one, and I would work for the other. But she was very good at doing processes and things, and she had it all set up. So I kind of slotted in, and I thought, you know what, 6 months, just so I can get my head together, and then I'll move on and I'll find something there. Just it'll be a good base. I know I can do a good job here, you know. And for the 6 months, yeah. So I joined in 2005, and I never left.
Wow.
That was in with the chamber, and you know. So I've grown with that role. Leicestershire Chamber, moved offices a number of times, and then they merged with Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire Chamber at a time that I took a step back. So I left the chamber, thinking this is my opportunity to do something completely different. And I did something completely different for 3 months, but then admitted at that 3 months that it wasn't for me, and I actually knew what I wanted to do, and it was actually go back to being a chamber. I had that wealth of knowledge, but I needed to do that step away in order to understand the value of it, really. And I was lucky enough.
Sorry, Lesley.
Was that to come back? So
fantastic. I mean, was that? Did you step away? If you don't mind me asking, did you step away from that role at the time because you were nervous about the change and the merger coming together? And because change is so big, isn't it? And it can be so uncertain and overwhelming that we don't sometimes know how to react to it. And so you think, I've done all I can here. I've done as much as I can. I think it's time for me to move on and go and experience something else. But as you say, to go back and think, actually, no, that was the right role for me. That takes a lot as well, because some people, like, I've done it before. I've left somewhere and thought, right, I've left there now. I'm not going back. That's it. But actually, if you know it, you understand it, and you did a really good job and you loved it, then why not? So I'm interested to know about that from you.
I saw the changes that were being made with the two organisations merging. It's interesting, and you know, it was into a much bigger organisation, so there were opportunities. But I also saw it for me as an opportunity to try something different. You know, that the job I moved to was actually in the next village, so I didn't have to get a train. There was no commuting. You know, I'd either walk the 20 minutes it took me, or take the bike, you know, and things. And I could take the dog into the office with me because it was a small studio, graphic design studio and things like that. But I think when I joined that organisation, there were the interview process I went through. I did quite a lot of research on this in this organisation, and they were doubling their number of people. And one of my questions at interview that I was always quite proud of actually was that you're doubling the number of people that you want to employ, and you're a small organisation that is, you know, provides a service. You know, how have you looked at your income for the next year? How have you ensured that you can support these new people and their development and grow the business? Because this is quite a big undertaking, really. And I was happy with the response that they gave me and things. But then when you joined it and you find that they're paying your salaries from a credit card, you think, maybe not, you know.
Wow.
And we tried it, you know, I did try and make the difference. I did have a go, and, you know, but 3 months, the end of the probation, I just put my hands up and said, I'm not comfortable with this. And it's not me, it's not how I want to grow and things. And I stepped away. So it's always been on good terms, which, of course, because I'd left the chamber on good terms as well and followed what they were going through in those 3 months, made it easier then just to get that introduction to say, well, actually, there is an opening for you if you wanted to come back. But I came back in with fresh eyes. Yeah. So I wasn't stupid across. I came back in as an external candidate, which made you think you had to work for it a little bit more. And I understood what I could value I could add, which maybe I wasn't aware of before I'd left.
Congratulations though, because that takes a lot of confidence, particularly in your, that previous role, to be able to challenge those and ask those questions and make them think about the growth and how where is this coming from and how is this going to benefit everybody else, and also to take the decision to walk away, because most of us are drummed, it's drummed into us, isn't it, by recruiters that we must, have at least a year's
Yeah.
employment on our CV. But actually, no, if there's justification and it wasn't the right place for you, then why not? We've tried it. It's got to work for both parties. You are equally choosing where to work as they're selecting you
Yeah.
to be the person for the right job. So
I always saw a second interview for a role as much as me finding out whether I like them, never mind whether they like me. So if I ever got invited back for a second interview, I would say, can I have a look around the offices? Can I meet some of the people I'll be working with, kind of thing? Because it's a huge part of the decision, But I think 3 months into a job, and being a reasonably career-minded person at that point, it was, how is this going to be viewed on my CV? And I thought, no, I feel confident enough to say that I tried something completely different and realised it wasn't for me. I didn't make a mistake in as much. This was just a discovery, and this is part of me. I will take a risk, but I'll also say if it's not right. And to be honest, nobody has ever questioned me on it, really, when they look at the CV, and I'm quite open about it. It's on there and it's only for 3 months. I tried something different, it didn't fit, let's move on.
Absolutely. And I had a brilliant conversation with she's a very senior EA at quite a large national company, and she rang me and I said, "Oh, what are you up to today?" And she said, "I'm just going to interview the company that I'm potentially going to
Oh,
work for." And
excellent.
I said, what do you mean?" And she said, "Well, I know they want to offer me the job." She said, "But I'm going to see whether they're the right company for me to go and work for, and
Yeah.
I'm going to interview them to find out if it." And I nearly fell off my chair. I was like, "That's absolutely amazing." I thought that is
Yeah.
brilliant that we're in a position at the moment where we can go and that's the right way. It's got to be the right decision for you. You're going to be spending you could be spending years at that organization like yourself, Lesley, devoting a lot of time to them. It's got to be right for both
Yeah.
of you. So
It's
how is
got to
your
feel comfortable.
yeah, excuse me, sorry, I'm still coughing from COVID, God. But I just wondered if how has your role evolved then throughout being at the chamber? How has it evolved over the years?
Well, when I joined, when I went back into the chamber world, at the point of the merger, I went back in working for a different chief executive with the merger that one had left, and I went to work with somebody else. And I went in as his PA, which meant, because we were covering the 3 counties, Derbyshire, Nottinghamshire and Leicestershire, I was travelling to different offices and taking his brought forward, being there to have meetings with him and to make sure he was prepped for his week ahead and things like that. So that really did change. And then there was a change within the chamber with the chief executive, which meant that the new chief executive, when he came on board, was somebody I had worked with previously in the organisation. He got promoted up. He didn't need a PA in the traditional manner at all. He dealt with his own diary, he does his own emails, and he's very organised, extremely organised. And he encouraged me more to get involved with projects and leading initiatives within the chamber. And he encouraged me to be part of the senior management team, not just to attend the meetings and take minutes, but he would ask my opinion in the meetings, and I would take part in conversations. And I remember going to, I think it was an EPA training event in Leeds a number of years ago now. And I just had this light bulb moment. They were talking about, being a strategic EA and finding your voice and finding your place. And I realised that, I saw my boss up here and I was down here supporting him, kind of thing. That's not where he saw me. He saw me up here. And it was just that light bulb moment when I thought, he sees me more as working alongside him than working for him or beneath him or whatever. And I thought, and that completely changed my mind then. It completely, and I went back and told him, and he said, "Oh yeah, that's how I do see you." And I thought, I hadn't realised that. It hadn't occurred to me that that's what he was encouraging me to do, to come up to a level, to be on the same level as the heads of departments that I work with on the senior management team, the other teams that I work with, and enabling these people to do things sometimes and having that voice. And I suppose when I looked at thinking how was I going to answer that kind of question, it was that light bulb moment. I think, yeah, actually, I'm not seen as an EA or somebody that makes the tea or somebody that takes the minutes at a meeting. I'm a member of that senior management team, and I have an active role in that. And that changes your view and changes the way you contribute to the organisation then as well.
Amazing, fantastic. And that's obviously, one of the reasons why you've stayed there. So forgive me, your chief exec is Scott, isn't it?
Yep, Scott
Yeah.
Knowles.
So how long have you worked with Scott? Was Scott that CEO at the time? And are you still working? Have you? Because that's two CEOs that you had. Did you have is Scott the third?
It is. Yes, Scott. No, Scott's still the chief executive now.
Yeah.
So yes, he is the third in my chamber career.
Yeah.
But when I first started working for the combined chambers, what that became the East Midlands Chamber, it was a different CEO, and then he left and Scott moved up. So yes, Scott is our new chief executive, and he changed the whole culture of the organisation at the East Midlands Chamber. So it's a lot more open, a lot more inclusive, and things. It really has opened it up, and people value that quite a bit more.
And were you nervous when you obviously knew Scott for some years, if he's moved up into that role? So was that lovely to see that transition and then to build that relationship together? Or how closely did you work with Scott before he became chief exec?
I did work quite closely with Scott beforehand, but he'd always struck me as being a different kind of person to work with. And you do work with him, you don't work for anybody at the chamber, you work with them and you work as a team, and each brings the values and things as well. So we have a much better culture and things now within the chamber, and it's you feel quite proud to talk about what the chamber does to other people externally and things. But yeah, he really has encouraged me to be a better person, and just to brought me out of myself, I think, a little bit as well in a professional manner. So
fantastic. And I mean, I have a very different because I've been to chamber events for years, like years and years and years. And most of the organisations that I've ever worked for have been members of the chamber, whether that be, there's different membership levels, but we've been anything from an individual member all the way through to patronage. So I've had all the different experience levels there, but I used to, go to chamber events all the time, constantly networking, whereas obviously working within the organisation, you get the benefit to see about that the chamber isn't just a networking organisation. It has incredible resources that work across all different parts of business, all the way through to international trade, and the different business support that it offers to, I've always been an advocate for the chamber. I've always thought it's a fantastic organisation. So do you go out networking as part of your role? Is that something that you've done? Is something that you need to do or do you encourage to do because it is the chamber? Or how does that work for you, Lesley?
We're always encouraged to go out and network, whether it's I support our events team at our major events. So I do the annual dinner, we do the awards ceremonies, I always deal with the VIPs that we invite to be guests of the president and things like that. So it's great for me to put faces to names that, when people are coming into contact that you email, and vice versa. The number of people that you think come in, that would come to a meeting and say, oh, Lesley said that's who you are. That's lovely to meet you, and to get that relationship with them. And it does change your relationship once you know somebody and you've spoken to them face to face, I realise it's good for my own profile as well as that of the organisation. If you're a welcoming person and people know you by your face, they feel a lot easier about either lifting the phone to you and saying, great event last night. By the way, can you put me in touch with somebody, or who can I contact about such and such, and it just opens it up. So I always like to be able to do that. And there's sometimes you sit in awe at some of these people thinking, these are quite important people in the East Midlands. They have seats on boards. There's deputy lieutenants that I'm in touch with, the high sheriffs, and Lord lieutenants, and that we have passed through the chamber and gone on to do other things. And you just think, I know that person. I know personal stuff about that person because we've had that interaction. So whether you call it networking, whether you just call it, you support these people, and you just to know them because you have common understanding and common likes. It's great.
100%. And the way I can relate to that is I'll never forget the first time I stood on the stage and gave a speech at the first West Midlands PA Awards, and I looked out to the crowd and I thought, how am I in this position where I'm talking to the most, at the time when we had a small amount of categories, we were talking to the most senior EAs from some gigantic global organizations where the partners or the CEOs were sat right next to them. And I thought, how am I standing in front of this audience, and what a privilege it is to be able to do that. But also it hit me, and I had this massive feeling of imposter syndrome and just thought, how has this happened, and but like you say, you get to know those people and you see the transitions and the things that they do and the way that their journey grows. And when you see other people, they're moving to different organizations or they're working for different people, and you think, oh my God, I've known you for 12 years. And I remember when you were there and this is what you were doing and this is how you started out. And it's just fantastic to be able to maintain those relationships, like you say, and be able to build on those relationships. And I think this is a great time now to kind of start to talk about the East Midlands PA network. And obviously you can see how valuable or how much you value and appreciate networking. So tell us about, how did the East Midlands PA network begin, and when was that, and how did it come about, Lesley?
The PA network, really, I started when I worked for Leicestershire Chamber, so back in the early, it's like 2000s. And it was being in daily contact with some of the EAs and PAs that my chief executive then, and the other organisations that he was involved with, trying to get meetings with them, trying to get, and you'd ring them up or you'd email and you'd say, it'd be nice to have a coffee and put a face to the name, and they would all come back and say, oh yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? So we suggested meeting up, and seeing the huge benefits of just knowing somebody, as I say, face to face, so that it changes that relationship, and it's left me with lasting relationships as well, that you think, like you say, you know these people when they move on to other jobs, and they remember you and they remember what you can do and how you can connect them to other people, and it's great to become that enabler as well. But we would have meetings and we would have coffees, and we'd talk to people, and I would think, what do you want to know, what can I help as a chamber introduce you to, and speakers and things. But I do have one very memorable meeting that we went to the Marriott Hotel at Junction 21, where we've met a couple of times, a lovely, absolutely beautiful venue and everything. And they provided a showcase lunch for us. It was really nice, very good food, very well presented and everything. And we'd had a speaker. And then we sat down afterwards and had a good chat, good networking session. And I'll never forget it. But a discussion that included colonic irrigation. what have you been up to at the weekend? And this lady just came out with it, you know, and it was a,
Wow.
what does that entail and things, and you think, I can't believe I'm sitting in this beautiful hotel, having eaten a lovely lunch and networking with, you know, colleagues and PAs now, and we're talking about colonic irrigation. You know? And if any of my colleagues or friends watch this back, and they were there because you know who you are.
But do you know what though?
And we still talk about it now.
Instantly though, it drops the barrier. It drops that. Yeah,
brings that human face out to people.
Yeah, we are, you know, obviously PAs and EAs are held in the highest regard in terms of professionalism, but we are they're human, and even if you get to network with each other, you've got to get to know each other. And you know, if you sat there and after lunch somebody drops the colonic irrigation bomb, then you've got to go with it. Do you know what I mean? That's fantastic.
Yeah, and we've shared some personal stuff as well, you know, and we've helped support people through difficult times, because, you know, a problem shared is a problem halved, whether it be professional in the office or whether it be personal, you know. But we went on to do events around career progression, around building your personal brand, around what makes a successful PA, event management and things. And we've been to some terrific venues and things, you know, including an overnight stay at Centre Parks in Sherwood, because they wanted to push the corporate side of what they could do for organisations. So we pulled together, you know, a group of good PAs that work for big organisations that might be looking for that kind of corporate venue, and they hosted it, and it was a terrific night. Yeah, it was nice. So absolutely. It's always been about connecting people and seeing others have that light bulb moment as well, when they realise, oh, that's what it did and that's what it meant.
Yeah, I think when we've just recently had the PA Forum Learning and Development Conference, and the amount of people I saw go, oh my God, and looking at the name badges going, it's you. I can't believe we've been speaking to each other on email for about 5 years and never had the chance to meet with each other. Watching that around the room was just amazing. It was fantastic.
And knowing that you've had a hand in making that happen is such a special bit, you know, and you must feel it 10 times more than anybody else, because of, you know, the events that you've put on, you know, with the PA Forum, even through, you know, the last 2.5 years, which have been difficult. We've done it all online, you know, you've still been connecting people, and we still do that, maybe without thinking, you know, but we do that, provide that support.
And I think it's only right for us really as network leaders to talk about, you know, there is the really nice fluffy side of things, but it does also come with its challenges as well. And you know, I think when both of us, and not just us, but majority of the network leaders across the UK, is that one of the biggest challenges that we face is no shows at events. And it's really quite, it really is difficult for us when we get a large proportion of no shows at events, because yes, there are people that have legitimate reasons, and most of the time they are, you know, after work events, and you know, work comes first and the business comes first if it's with obviously, you know, that, and we completely understand that. But it's very difficult when we're arranging these events at venues and they're sponsoring things and they're providing these for free, and then it's just so disheartening, isn't it, when you get that proportion of dropouts that makes it difficult for us then to try and find other venues to work with, because word spreads, and that's difficult to manage. I think sometimes perception, you know, a lot of them, when they know that PAs or EAs are going to walk through the door, will go above and beyond to a point where, you know, I've had PAs before come up to me and go, Dan, can I have that dessert that we had at that showcasing event for my conference? And I'm like, I don't know whether the hotel actually does that. I think they just did it for that particular event because they really wanted to showcase themselves in the highest regard. But it does sometimes get you as a leader, I think. And I think it can be challenging. I mean, you know, I know that we've both felt that, and I know that there's a feeling with that at the moment with other network leaders across the UK as well. But I'm hoping that, you know, now we're coming out of the pandemic and through the other side, that there is this want and this this hunger to get back to events again. Would you agree?
I do hope so. I mean, we have venues coming to us wanting to showcase what they've got. You know, we want to be able to take not just quantity of people, but quality people as well. We want to take those EAs and PAs that are going to look at this venue, hopefully, and think, oh yeah, we could take this corporate event there, or we can take our team building event there or something, you know. So it's us making these connections and things. But I do think there's a little bit of as EAs and PAs, we have to be more confident in saying, and I've always been very lucky because my boss, you know, Scott, has always supported me in doing this networking, and he's seen it very important as my own personal development to do that kind of thing. But we have to build that confidence in our EAs and PAs to say to their bosses, you know, this is important to me, this is my own CPD, and we used to offer CPD points and things, you know, so we would get these accredited events sorted and give them certificates and things. But to get a 50% dropout rate to some of these events, and you're just standing there at the event going, I'm sure there'll be some more people turning up, you know, soon, just puts us in such a difficult position. And I really do hope that through the pandemic and think people wanting to do that kind of thing, that not just the EAs and PAs will see the value of doing this kind of thing, but also their organisations and the people they work for will see the value of them attending this kind of thing, and the return on investment that it would have for all of them. You know, because a lot of people, when they used to come to our events, it would be, yes, to do it in their own time because we'd have to do it after work. And if there was a cost to it in any way, they would have to pay for it themselves as well. And I think if we're going to learn anything from this, we need to learn that we need to be more confident about what we want to do as a profession, and ask our employers to support us in doing that.
Absolutely. And I think that's why, you know, we've taken the decision to work together and support both our regions, both support the East Midlands and the West Midlands by bringing us together as one, which is just, for me, incredibly exciting. But I think, as you know, a lot of people that have joined us on the call today will probably think, you know, what's happened here. They may know the PA Forum, they may know East Midlands PA Network, but you know, for us, we had our meeting at Marriott Leicester, didn't we, Lesley? And we just hit it off. And I think it was just so lovely. I was very new to the profession. I didn't really know many people. Lesley was one of the first people that reached out as a network leader and invited me over to the East Midlands for me to come and meet her. And we had just such a wonderful time together, getting to know each other and understanding about each other's networks, understanding about the positives that we experience, but also the challenges as network leaders sometimes that we face, and how, you know, it's important for us to be able to get ideas and suggestions from other network leaders across the UK, because it helps us to be able to build a better network for our communities. So Lesley, do you want to kind of talk through what happened there and where we are now?
Yeah, sure. As the East Midlands PA Network, we had kind of stopped doing our own events, not just because of the no-shows and things, but it was for personal and professional reasons. It took a lot to put the events on. And although, you know, I had a small committee that would help come up with ideas and things, because the data and our membership data was held within the Chamber's CRM system, it always fell back to me as part of, you know, so like my role and part of my job to organise the events and to pull it all together and to make, you know, to go to the speakers and things like that. And it just got too much in the end. So we did a lot of things, and directing people to what the Chamber did as training, what the Chamber did as events that were relevant to EAs and PAs. But I always admired, we come from different backgrounds, you and I, Dania. You know, I come from an EA, PA background, that's what I do. Yeah, you've come from the event side of things, you know, but we've seen the value in joining what we do together kind of thing. And I've always admired what you did in the PA Forum in the West Midlands, and in particular how you drew on the experiences and what EAs and PAs in the West Midlands wanted. So you've pulled together people onto your committees, you listen to what they want, and then you make it happen. And then what you did throughout the pandemic, when you carried on doing events online, and inviting people in, so we were all learning how to do Teams meetings and Zoom meetings and things, but you gave us that peer network again, even if it was just on a little screen here, that we could still connect with people, we could still discuss our issues and things, and you kept that community together, and you grew that community, but not just in the West Midlands, because people could do it online. You were finding people coming in from all over the UK and being part of what you'd got, and building your platform with your website and how you could book easily and things like that. And for me, it just seemed, for me personally, it was kind of, I really need to do something with the PA network as we come out of the pandemic. I can't go back to what we were doing before, and my role has changed in the chamber, and it would be difficult. And I'm just thinking, there is no reason at all that we couldn't join with you, and instead of reinventing that wheel, is just make East meets West, and bring the PA Forum brand into the East Midlands, so we can develop that kind of community that I think has been missing. For me, getting towards the end of my career, I suppose, I'm in my late 50s now, I've got a lot of experience that I can pass on. I've got a lot of learning I can still do from the new ways of working, and I just still feel that I have a role to do as that enabler, that connector, to connect people together. And it just seemed the most sensible thing to do, and to work with someone like you makes you laugh all the time. It's just brilliant.
And Lesley, again, I still get that feeling of imposter syndrome, where I think, how have I ended up in this position where somebody with the experience that you have and what you've done, and your experience in the business support community and creating that network, to have to come to me and want to work in partnership with me, and that to me is a total honor, and I'm really humbled by that, and I really am excited to see where we can develop this. And I think what we've agreed is that we want to try and increase the awareness, already on what's been built in the East Midlands, to bring back that sense of community after COVID, and do that together. And we'll do that initially online, creating that community and building people, and we will look to bring back events into the East Midlands. We won't be doing them massively frequently, but we don't do frequent events in the West Midlands, but it's all about, when we do those events, that we do them really well and we bring those people together. And we've both agreed that we want to form a really solid committee, because in the West Midlands here, I'm very, very lucky to have, I've got a team of 25 now that supports the different regions in across the West Midlands. Our awards committee, our learning and development committee, our next generation committee, that are helping and supporting the next generation of PAs and EAs coming through into the profession. So we are now on the lookout for committee members across the different, so in Leicestershire, in Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire, ideally looking for 3 or 4 people that are passionate about the area, that work in the area, that work in different roles, and that are interested to find out a little bit more about how they could support us in our journey going forward. Because this network is not about Lesley and I, this network is about the East Midlands community. And so we are looking for people that are really passionate about the East Midlands, passionate about the profession, and that they really want to try and help us build a really solid community in the region.
We want to know from those people, what are the issues they're facing in their organisations, in their sectors? How do they think being an EA and so like merging with, meeting with other PAs as well, can help them and their organisation going forward? We want to make those connections, and just make sure that we're bringing that passion, for our profession, because it is a profession, just to the fore and bringing it out a little bit as well, particularly in the East Midlands. So,
and to me, the incredible, to give you an example about how incredibly valued the committee are, I wouldn't have been able to do any of this without them at all.
mhm.
And, we had our founding committee that helped me build the Birmingham PA Awards, which then became the West Midlands PA Awards. We had our conference wasn't even on the cards until we had 4 or 5 PAs that were incredibly passionate about learning and development and wanted to bring a conference that was outside of London to the West Midlands region that was more accessible, more affordable for people to come to. And they constantly come up with ideas and suggestions. And sometimes I sit there and think, oh my God, there's loads of ideas here. But we put them together, we work together, and we build a really solid foundation of how we're going to move forward and making sure that the community that we serve are involved at most of, if not all, stages of the process, which is really exciting. And so
we want to make sure that this has a longevity. We want to build it into people's future going forwards, and it doesn't belong, like you say, Daniel, to you or to me. It belongs to all EAs and PAs in the East Midlands, in the West Midlands, and it's their opportunity to be part of their own future.
Absolutely. And one of the most exciting things I think that we speak about is we want to bring it's time that the East Midlands gets its own recognition and reward ceremony, specifically focusing on the executive and business support profession. And Lesley's very passionate about reward and recognition, very passionate. The Chamber Awards, I saw everything from last week. Was it this week? It was Monday, wasn't it? Tuesday? The award?
We've been doing, we've had the annual dinner
Annual dinner.
just last week, and we're coming up to doing judging for our awards. So the Chamber has business awards in each of its different counties. So that'll be September time. We'll be doing the judging. November is our awards ceremonies, and that's for all businesses, for all various categories and things. But it just made sense that there is that passion within our own profession to bring the EAs and PAs into their own awards, and just to value and to celebrate that commitment to the role and the profession.
Absolutely. And so we started our awards, the West Midlands PA Awards. We started, this will be our 5th year, and we started off with 5 categories. We're now up to 10 categories, and we tend to get 350 to 400 people attend on the evening, which is fantastic. That was pre-pandemic numbers, and we're starting to build that back up again now. But again, I have a really fantastic community of our awards committee who help me we sit down every year and think, what categories are we going to have? What's the criteria? What's going to be the entry process? How can we make this as fair and transparent as possible? How can we get judges that have a real breadth of experience across the profession? How can we encourage businesses to get involved? And we are one team that work solidly together. And so myself and Lesley are looking for representatives again that are from Derbyshire, Leicestershire and Nottinghamshire to be able to bring together an awards committee that will be able to help us launch in the East Midlands. And we're hoping to have the first East Midlands PA Awards in the autumn next year, which will be very exciting. So
the more people we talk to about it, the more excitement, and it's like people wanting to get involved. So it'd be really good to hear from anybody who's really wants to get involved in the East Midlands, and talking about both the awards and what other things that they want to take forward and learn and things.
Yeah, we've already getting in the chat box. Lesley sign me up to support, which is amazing. So I think, we are going to put together a series of discovery sessions coming up in the next couple of weeks, just to find out a little bit more about anyone who's interested in becoming a committee member, or wants to find out more. We'll invite our West Midlands PA Awards committee to talk a little bit more about what the experience is like for them. And we're really excited to be able to work with you. Lesley, it has been an absolute pleasure, and I am so excited for, this time ahead together. Thank you so much for
Thank
today.
you.
How do you feel? Oh
I've
no,
gone all croaky again now.
oh bless you. Well, Lesley,
Thank
honestly,
you very much.
it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today, and we'll look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you so much. Take
Lovely.
care.
Thanks,
Thanks.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.